All right, tribe. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, how are your sales going? If your answer is anything less than great, well, you're definitely a part of the right conversation today. We're going to be talking about how to take your sales from a fail to a successful sale. And chances are, if you are not generating consistent sales or transactions, is because you're doing two of these three things of what we're going to discuss today. But first, my name is Coach Shay, and we'll be talking about the Dream Small Business Framework. Today, I'm going to give you the three P's that are either going to turn your product or service into a sale or a fail. We want to stay away from fails as much as possible, and we can only do that until we understand this one thing. I'd actually like to go back and adjust that. Fails are not such a bad thing. And I've learned that over time and through many mentors because when we fail in sales, we actually can learn something. So every time we don't complete or make a sale, we should be taking away a very valuable lesson and adjusting at least one thing about our approach to sales. Now, I will also say that it is really important that you are doing your work in terms of becoming better at sales by investing in some sort of sale training. My training comes from Myron Golden's Boss Moves books. Business Optimization Success Secrets from $1 Million Roundtable. This less than 200-page paperback has literally helped me to create more sales and generate more sales in my business by Myron giving me four principles. He gives us just four principles in that book to follow, and he makes it very easy to read and to understand. Okay, so we're pulling principles right out of this book and having this conversation today with regards to the three P's. Now, make sure that you have a notebook and a pen so that you understand this process very easily. Okay. So, number one, here's the first P. If you're not generating consistent sales in your business, it is very likely because you're selling the first P, which is, I'm actually going to write it in red. If you are not generating consistent sales in your business, it is likely because you're talking about product or a service. Now, what do I mean by this? When you're actually speaking to a lead, right? Cold lead or warm lead, a potential customer, right? The last thing that you want to do is actually to talk about your product or your service. Even if they ask you what your product or service is, you want to indirectly speak about what they're actually going to achieve or receive from purchasing that product. So, for me, for example, I am also additionally, aside from a dream coach that helps you to build your dream small business, I also help you busy professionals to achieve their dream body, right? But in talking about my fitness services, I don't give customers, right, potential customers, my entire fitness journey. I don't tell them that I'm a fitness instructor at Lucio Roberts. I don't explain that I am a personal trainer outside of Lucio Roberts. I don't go into the various spaces that I work in for group events, right? I don't speak about all of the content that I produce on my Built by Community channel, which is fitness based. I do all of these things though, and they are all services that I offer. I also have fitness products. I have an entire Etsy store with fitness related products, right? Now, these are all things that I can offer to a potential customer. But if you were listening to any of those, can you even recall four of them that I've mentioned so far? You might have got lost somewhere in all of the things that I do in terms of the fitness industry. Now, that's okay because that's my fault. And I'm going to take accountability for going down the list of all of the things that I do as a part of my fitness services and products. Now, I want you to think about where this will fall in line with something that you offer. Do you find that you actually begin to talk about yourself when someone asks about your product or your service? Okay. Talking about what the thing is, people don't buy that because you're essentially talking just about that, the product. You're talking about yourself and what you created or even why you created it. Now, it is not to say like these things aren't important. However, if your intention is to sell during this conversation, you do not want to begin to go down a rabbit hole of describing the actual product or services. It is going to naturally lead right into a fail. Okay. We lose people as we're talking about ourselves. We lose people as we're talking about product. Very simple. Okay. So we want to stop doing that. Now, that was product, right? That's our first P. Let's go into our second P. Here is another reason to which we're possibly not generating consistent sales within our business. So when we're talking to a potential lead, we want to be mindful about talking about the process. Don't do that. Stop speaking about the process. Now, again, y'all, these are things that I've learned already in my journey. And these are things that my mentors have confirmed for me. And you could do your own research and find this out for yourself. Okay. But you will very likely hear any of the successful mentors and teachers that you have in regards to business. They will tell you to not speak about the process as a part of the sale. It's so important, right? So, even as we're speaking in the context of content, right? We're not creating content to speak about our products. We're not creating content to speak about the process of that product or the services that we offer. Okay. Process will also lose your potential client because they don't care. Plain and simple. They don't care about the product. They don't care about the process. They just want one thing. They want what happens at the end of the journey of purchasing the product or purchasing the process, right? Like these things naturally already come with the outcome that they're looking for. So to talk about it, right? Especially as the first conversation that you're having with this potential client that's going to buy from you, it will absolutely lose them. In fact, it might even push them away from wanting to purchase the product that they've already decided like they trust you and that you possibly can help them. If we start to talk about the process, we can lose our potential client. So we want to stay away from that. We want to stay away from telling them the process. So when I meet a potential client who already knows that I'm a fitness instructor, they've seen my social media handles, they see my own personal transformation, and maybe they've even seen some reviews from my clients. Okay. So they've already technically made a semi decision that they might want to work with me. Okay. But now we're having our very first conversation on a discovery call. And I asked them what they want to do. They tell me that their goal is to lose weight, right? So then my immediate response is, well, how much weight do you want to lose? Okay. And then they say, well, I want to lose up to 20 pounds. No problem. I actually help countless people lose just around the same amount of weight by creating a 3-day program to which they'll do on a weekly routine. All they need to do is go to the gym. The first day is going to be a strength training day, total body. Then the second day is going to be cardio. And the third day is going to be mobility training. They only have to stay in the gym for 30 minutes, right? So not even an hour, just the 30 minutes, 3 times a day. Sorry, 3 times a week. And then aside from that, I need them to do intermittent fasting. So they have an 8-hour window, eating window. And then the rest of that time, they're going to spend doing something else, also in regards to sleep, right? And then and then No, and then, and then. Okay. Listen, this will equal to a fail. You don't want to take your clients, your potential clients through the process. Okay. I have stopped taking any potential clients through the entire process. Even if they ask how, I don't tell them until they've agreed to work with me. This wasn't something that I was always doing. I thought that the more information that they had in the beginning, upfront in the get go, then the more likely it was for them to purchase. But I found that it actually just gives them more reasons to say no. For someone who wants to lose 20 pounds of weight and they're not working out at all right now, they already believe that they don't have enough time to work out. They already believe that a gym membership costs too much. They already are uh, scared or fearful about food deprivation, right? They're already feeling all those things, even though they know that they need to make a change and that they want to make a change, right? Even with all of this, y'all, one thing will absolutely confirm and affirm all of their fears that they're already thinking and feeling about. Mind you, one of those fears also is going to be how much it costs to work with me one on one or even as a group, right? All of these things, y'all, absolutely has pushed people away and gave me a hard no instead of a hard yes. I thought I needed to tell them all of the things up front in order to help them to make a decision. It does not help your potential clients to make decisions at all. Okay. What they need are results. So now, instead of giving the rundown of how, right? The process is the how, right? The product was and product and service is the what? The process is the how. Instead of giving them the process, I nixed all of that conversation out. And the first thing that I need to find out for myself, I want to save them time and save myself time, is if they can actually afford my program. So until we establish that, we don't even get into the weeds of it. The only thing that they know right now is that I have helped countless people lose up to 20 pounds or more. I have helped people lose 10 pounds, 15 pounds, 20 pounds, 30 pounds. How? Well, I'll be happy to tell you more about that if you're willing to work with me, right? Well, how much does it cost to work with you? That's usually the next question, and that's perfect. Now we can talk about price. And once we could talk about price, they can automatically decide whether they're going to work with me or not because they know whether they can afford my program or not. The question is not in regards to whether I can help them to achieve their goal. I know that I can help them to achieve their goal, and to some degree, they know that too, or at least they're at least in the discovery process, right? But I've already confirmed it. I have reviews that also confirms it as well that I can help you to achieve this particular goal. So the answer is yes, I can help you do that. Do you want to work together? Well, that depends. Can you afford this program? Is it within your budget? Yes, it is. No, it is not. And so, what this also does, y'all, is that if it's not even within your budget, if it's not within their budget, if they can't even afford your product or your service, now you don't even have to tell them any more about the product or service. And you surely don't have to describe the process. You don't have to tell them how anything because none of that mattered. None of that matters. Whether it takes 3 times a week for workouts or whether it takes 5 times a week for the workout. The process has no relevance in the very first conversation between you and a potential client. So leave it out. Okay. So that's two of the three P's: no product description, no process description. This doesn't mean that you can't have this somewhere else. Like maybe it's on your website, or maybe you have a landing page, or maybe you actually speak about it already in some sort of content. Like you already have content that describes it. Great. You can very well send them to those spaces to learn more first. And that's a better idea than you explaining it yourself one on one. Why? Number one, because that information already exists. So you get to save yourself valuable time by not repeating what is already out there, what already lives in a piece of content that you could just reference them to. Two, if you end up referencing your content in some other form of fashion, may it be your website, your landing page, or maybe another social media platform, right? Or maybe it's YouTube. If you reference them to another point, that actually helps to build trust with this person. They want to know that you have some sort of credibility. And when we produce content, right, whether it's written or whether it's visual or audio, it helps to build credibility that you are an authority in your space, that you know what you're talking about, right? So it's great to actually send them to a different space if that's what needs to happen, right? There is a study that's been done. I always get the numbers mixed up, but it's something like 7-11-4. And this says that your potential clients need several touch points with you before they actually make a purchase. So they need to see you in different lighting, in different sceneries, in different environments. So aside from speaking to you one-on-one or speaking to you screen to screen, whatever the case may be, I now get to send you to another piece of content. I now get to subscribe you to my emailing list where I might send you free advice and tips anyway. We may not even have to work together one-on-one. You may very well just find that in the content that I send you through being on my email distribution list. You might see it on my Instagram handle, right? So this is something to keep in mind, to think about. Don't spend your time talking about your product or your service or the process of these things and how you can get people to the results that they want. You know that you can get them to the results that they want based on the questions that you've asked them, right? So you've taken them through the assessment. And since you are deciding that, yeah, I can help you, right? You now get to move on to the next step, which is what actually converts potential clients into a sale with a happy face, okay? So, what you do want to talk about with your potential clients is the one thing that they actually care about and the one thing that's going to lead you to a sale. And that's the payoff. You want to talk about the payoff. Myron really wrapped this in such a beautiful package inside of this book. And I really didn't think about this concept until he did. And Myron really honed in on the fact that people are not paying us for the product. They're surely not paying us for the process. We are being compensated for the payoff. What's the payoff? The payoff is the actual transformation that people have through achieving your product or service and through going through the process. So once I know if I wanted to lose 20 pounds and I connected with a personal trainer, I let them know this information. I believe to some degree that they can help me, right? Now, once I've made the decision that, yes, this is the person that I want to work with, I know that they can help me. Whatever that person tells me, I'm going to do. Why? Because they're the expert. You're the expert. You're the expert of your product and your service. And you know that better than anyone else before they know it, for sure. Right? So you want to only speak about and hone in on the payoff. Now, before you hone in on the payoff, I'm going to give you one additional tip, which is also in Myron Golden's Boss Moves book. The payoff actually takes away this one thing to which that person came to you for. And that's pain. We want to convert their pain into a payoff. Okay. This is the only one that pays because we're taking away something that has been detrimental, a hindrance, okay, sabotaging their lives. People don't buy anything else aside from the payoff. People buy results, people buy the transformation, people buy freedom from their problem, even if that wasn't pain. Because maybe you're like, well, my potential clients are not necessarily going through pain. Let me give you something that everyone goes through. Everybody has this problems. Okay. Everyone has problems. So we're taking the pain or the problems away from them and it's for the exchange of the payoff that they're looking for. And this book, the Boss Moves book, breaks this down in a way that completely changed how I talk about my offers now. So now I don't have to talk about the products I sell. Now I actually don't even sell aimless products anymore. I was selling aimless products for no reason. Okay. I have a bunch of products in my Etsy shop, which has definitely generated some great sales at some points. Okay. At some points in time. And it's so funny that once I stopped actually trying to sell these things, people started to ask about them. It is so interesting how that works. But that's because they already know that I can or I already am producing a certain payoff for them. And so now they just want whatever I have. That's perfectly fine. In whatever form of fashion that they can take and that they can afford, they'll take it. They want it. So Myron really breaks this down in such a beautiful way in this book. And I want you to be able to experience that shift too by going through the same exact steps and method that I'm telling you. So we want to go through your 3 Ps. When you're talking to a potential client, don't speak about your product or your service. Remember, talking about the what that thing is, people do not buy that. Do not speak about the process, especially before you know that they're the client, right? That they're your client. So my clients have no idea what their workout plan would look like until we've agreed to work together. Okay. So talking about how it works, the process, it's a no-no. People will literally glaze over from speaking. They're not going to remember that. Like that's not what they're going to remember out of what your conversation is, unless you've said something that actually made them say no. Then they'll remember. They'll remember that. They said I had to go to the gym 5 days and work out for 60 minutes. That sometimes is a part of someone's program. But if I told them that before they made the purchase, they would have never purchased. That sounds detrimental. But it sounds less detrimental when you know that it's going to give you this at the end, right? Because we want the result. They want the outcome. They want to be able to fit into clothes that they like or love. They want to feel better in their body. They want to be able to breathe again. They want to be able to, I'm not even kidding you, see their feet. I have had, I worked with plenty of clientele who have dropped weight so drastically that they're amazed that they can see their feet, or their spouse and significant other is amazed by how much weight that they're losing. Okay? So those things are painful. Those things are a problem, right? And maybe their workout consists of 5 days with an hour in the gym, but I wouldn't tell them that from the jump because that sounds dreadful. So they don't need to know that ahead of time. Okay? People glaze over by the process or they peace out. Okay? No thank you. See you later. Right? And then finally, the payoff. The payoff is the one thing that people actually pay for, the results, the transformation, the absence of the problem. Finally, or access to a new identity. So I work with busy professionals one on one. And a lot of those busy professionals, and I've been in this space too, especially if you're speaking on stage or you're speaking in front of people or you're speaking in front of a camera, appearance is really important. So you want to look as good as you feel, and you want to feel as good as you look. Okay. So working with busy professionals has been really joyful, honestly, because they can pay for it. I'm not gonna hold you. They have a more flexible budget to work together one on one. They achieve their goals a lot faster because they understand the value of time and money, and so they just do the thing, right? And then ultimately, the most rewarding part of my work is how people feel once they are actually done with their program, and not necessarily done with working with me, but done with their program, right? They've done this thing for an allotted amount of time and they've gotten to this milestone now, right? And they wouldn't have done that had they not made the decision to work with me. Okay. And through that process, they get to decide now whether they want to continue or if they're going to move on to something else. And I've had both. I've known many clients to get it and know what works for them, and they just continue to do that on their own, right? And I also know many people who wants to continue to work together because the energy is great, because we make great partnerships and they want to keep going, right? Because fitness is a lifestyle. So it makes total sense. So you want to teach people the value of your payoff. Show people how they will respond to their transformation. You want to lose 20 pounds? How would that make you feel? Right? What about clothes? Would you have to buy new clothes, or do you already have clothes that you used to fit into that you don't anymore? Right? I want to give them a visual. I want to help them to visualize this part of themselves that they're reaching for, and they feel like it's far away because they're too immersed into the problem. They're too immersed into the pain right now. So I'm going to give them an opportunity to do both, visualize that problem, but then also visualize the payoff if they were to go through the product, the service, and the process, right? So people don't want the workout. They don't care. They don't care about my workouts. They want the dream body, though, right? They want the dream body. So what is that for you? Are you selling a course? People don't want the course. So what is it that you're actually selling? Okay. The confidence, clarity, skill set so that they can achieve or obtain a new job, cash flow. Are you helping people make more money? And then here's an extra quick tip for you. So, extra quick tip for you, make sure you're taking notes. And you know what? Whatever notes that you do take that you feel has been valuable in this conversation, also leave it down in the comments for me. I'd really appreciate to know who you are and where you are on your journey right now. What have you been doing wrong? And what are you going to start to do right? Okay. So, we have the 3 P's: the product, the process, and then the payoff. Okay. And your next tip is I need you to pay for something that you know will provide you with the transformation. The best way to understand this topic that I'm telling you about is to do it for yourself. So I'm not talking about grabbing lunch, right? It's far from what I'm speaking about. What is your next step of investment that is going to help you to become a better salesperson? Because we're not going to front, like sales requires practice. It's a skill set. So also, if you're not great at sales, more than likely you're doing one of the two things that we talked about today, and then not the third at all. But we also need to get better at sales. So we need to opt into this experience in some form of capacity. I need you to pay for something and pay attention to what I just told you. The next large purchase that you're making, why? What is the problem that you're having that is causing you to make this purchase? Or what's the pain point that you're experiencing that's causing you to make this purpose? And listen to other people sell, right? Listen to other people sell. See how you respond during this conversation, right? Because we're also consumers. We're the salesmen, but we're also the consumers. So we understand this to some degree from the consumer standpoint, right? So now we gotta flip it, right? And as a part of that experience of being more mindful when you are making a purchase with the anticipation that it's going to resolve your problem so that you're able to learn what your customer is going through, I also need you to pay for something valuable that's going to increase your knowledge, your skill set in selling. For me, that was this book. This book has helped me tremendously, and it's amazing because it's only $30. Again, it's less than 200 pages. It's an easy read. There's even pictures in here. So it's like, it's one of those things where you'll turn the page and one of the pages is full on illustration. And then the next page sometimes is just like half of the page with writing on it. It's a super easy read, very easy to understand. I've just been reading this back and forth, back and forth. Do you know I just flipped open a page that landed on the payoff? This is to just show how aligned this conversation is. And if you're still here right now and you're listening to the sound of my voice, this message is for you. We just got confirmation. So I'm going to read this. I flipped to this page randomly just to tell you about how easy the read was. And we landed right on the conversation that I highlighted about the payoff. That wasn't even planned, y'all. So let's see what it says because I don't even know. The payoff is the answer they are looking for, and the process is the way to the payoff. But you don't sell them the process, you sell them the payoff and then deliver the process. Don't sell the process, sell the payoff. Want to make a lot of sales? Sell the payoff. Wow. I love that this is so far ingrained within me that I'm repeating things that I didn't even intend to. Okay. And so that's how important it is. And it's been working. That's the thing. It's been working. The thing that I love the most, and Myron talked about this. We have to experience it for ourselves to really know. Like because you hear it, so we know because we have the information, but there's nothing like knowing through wisdom, meaning that you've applied the information that you know. Okay? So Myron says that the more no's you get, the better. When you're trying when you're in the middle of a conversation in sales, like a sales conversation, because now nobody's time's getting wasted. Your time's not being wasted and their time is not being wasted because we've already settled that. We can move on now. I can go about my day. I don't know how many of you have spent minutes or even an hour on a discovery call with someone talking about this entire plan that you have for them, only for them not to purchase it. Or sometimes they purchase it and then they don't complete it, right? They stop halfway, or sometimes not even half. Okay, so Myron says, don't sell the pieces to your offer, right? Get clear. Get clear on what you are selling, which is the payoff. The payoff is the only way to make a sale. And so this conversation was brought to you by Boss Moves Books. And I'd like to offer you the same opportunity that Myron offered to me. This book has been super helpful in my success and specifically in the sales of my success. I love going to my affiliate dashboard and looking at all of the people who chose to make a difference in their sale process, right? Or in their knowledge and information around how to succeed in their business. And so I'd like to make the same offer to you, obviously. So what I need you to do is to purchase this book, which is down in my description box. My affiliate link is there. Okay. And then once you purchase the book, I'm going to be happy to offer you a Boss Moves implementation call. What's a Boss Moves implementation call? Well, I'm going to help you to be able to create the identity, the offer, and the transformation that you are actually looking for in your business, because it's not to sell your product or your service. It's not. Is to successfully scale and operate your business. And the only way to do that is through sales. So if you're not making sales right now, there is a large gap that you have. And a $30 investment is literally the most cost effective thing that I've done for my business, even cheaper than having a coach or a mentor, right? But I am more than willing to jump on an implementation call with you, but you first must grab the Boss Moves book using my link down below. And then you're going to forward me your receipt and I'll send you the link, okay, to your Boss Moves implementation call. And then let's create your identity, your offer, and your transformation together that people will actually pay for. And with that, my friends, just remember, if you've got a dream, let's shape it into something real. I'm your coach Shay, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace.